Farouk, how are you? Can you hear me?
Able to hear me?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah, now I can hear you.
Okay, give me a second. I'm going to mute. Well, yeah, I don't need to mute. They're all muted now. Good. All right. Here we go. That's what I was looking for. So how's things been going for you?
Things have been going good. Sounds like I'm doing each webinar from different continents of the world.
Oh, yeah, that's good.
Yeah. So
Now,
Jade is not here yet.
not yet.
Mhm.
Yeah, but we are live streaming. I went ahead and set that up. So let me give you the link over there. Sure. Here's the link.
Jade, yeah.
Chat. Jay just got in. Hey, Jade, how are you?
Hey, Michael, I'm doing pretty good. Hey, Farouk.
Hello.
Good. So I created a whiteboard. I'm not going to have that on the whole time, but I'll put it on and it's pretty much got what we're going to be talking about today. So let me see if I can, probably can't share that with you yet. Let's test this out. So can you guys see this whiteboard here?
I can see it. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So I'll be in and out of that. We'll get started in 2 or 3 minutes to give people some time to get in.
Have we already started the live streaming on YouTube, or will we start that after we start the session?
It started now.
We started. Okay.
Yeah, because it doesn't take that long, but I didn't want to do it when we were trying to get started
Ah,
with the actual webinar. Yeah. How's it been going for you, Jade?
I'm doing pretty good. Having a pretty good week so far. I can't complain. What about you guys?
Good, good, good. I wanted to talk to you guys too. One of the things that we want to do is to probably set up something very, very specific for interviewing. So Farouk, you and I have talked about that before, but I do want to look at that because we're already doing it. It's just a matter of having something specific that we do, even with virtual speech masters. One of our clients, he actually attends mock interview sessions, which would be something very easily we could set up through our WhatsApp group
mhm.
where people can get together and do mock interviews with each other, right,
Yeah.
on their own time. And then I wanted to set up a specific service that we offer for interviewing at a much, much lower price point, but it's just specifically for interviewing. So we can talk about that. But I'm saying that live now just because I want people to know that we've already, I know I've been doing this since started basically, and you've been doing it too, Farouk. So we know that now there's a lot of turnover and a lot of people losing their jobs. And so it's very, very competitive out there. There are lots and lots of qualified people applying for the same jobs. And and it's not qualifications and experience that separate who gets a job and who doesn't. Usually it's verbal communication skills, right? Who can articulate that well under pressure in interviews. So since we've been doing it already, we can just kind of carve out that piece of what we do and help people who are struggling with that.
Yeah, I think we can structure it a bit better. We already did some sessions on interviews inside the speech masters thing, and I think you have also worked with various people who were just working for their interviews. I also worked with one or two. I think JFIT was one, probably one or two more. So I think it would be pretty good to include that as more structured in a separate thing. So
Good, good. So we'll go ahead and get started. Thank those of you who are here live and those of you that might be watching also live on YouTube, as well as those of you that will be watching this as a replay. We want to welcome and thank Jade again for joining us, and of course, Farouk. So today we're going to be talking about something that virtually everyone struggles with, and some people struggle with this more than others. Some people struggle for a really long time with this. And we've done lots of videos and sessions on this topic, but I wanted to go through it again and provide some insights, at least 5 solutions that you'll be able to walk away with today to help you overcome what some people call worry and negative anticipation. There's a slight difference in those two, and we'll explain that. And then we'll be hearing from everyone on the webinar today. If you are joining us live and you have questions, it can be either about this content or anything else Pro90D related, speech related. Feel free to ask if you have specific questions for Jade and his speech journey, or just how he's handled something or how he's handling something. Please feel free to ask him as well as Farouk. So that's one of the benefits of being here live, is that you can ask questions, as well as if you have gone through the process and you have some things that you'd like to briefly share, you have an opportunity to do that. So we want to welcome everyone. If you're able to briefly type in, I'm just going to type this into the chat, where you are from or where you live now, and what you do for a living, that would be great, just to give us an idea. And if you remember, how did you, and more than likely it was email, but how did you hear about this webinar? Okay, so if you're able to type that into the chat box, that'd be great. So today we're going to be talking about worry. Before we do that, let me just have Jade and Farouk introduce themselves so that you know a little bit more about them. Let's start with Jade, then we'll go to Farouk, and then we'll get started.
Hey everyone, I hope you all are well. I'm Jay from New York. I've been in the Pro90D community now for a few years. I'm currently one of Michael's coaching clients. I'm also a member of the Virtual Speech Master Club, and I'm also currently learning and training to become a Pro90D coach as well. So excited to be here again, and hopefully I can help offer any insight at all.
all right. Hi, everybody. I hope everybody is doing pretty good. So welcome to this webinar. This is Farooq, as some of you people might already know. So I've been working as a speech coach with Michael for the last more than 3 years or so, working with various clients one-on-one. And I joined this system back like 4 or 5 years back as a client myself, who used to struggle pretty severely with my speech. And I was trained by Michael on my speech. Then he trained me on how to coach people, and then I've been coaching people for the last more than 3 years. I'm also training in neuroscience, and that is where I plan to do research on stuttering. So that is something which is I'm looking forward to as well.
And many of you, if you didn't know, which you probably wouldn't know, but if you've seen both of these guys before, because I remember working with you, Jade, and you, Farouk, if you saw the way they speak before, you probably wouldn't believe that they struggle in terms of how they speak now. So we want you to know this is not fake, right? Like people really do transform your speech where they can pretty much say what they want, when they want, the way that they want. They experience freedom. They go on to do great things like both Farouk and Jade. But not only them, we are giving you an opportunity to join our virtual Speech Masters Club where you can see more people and you can see them while they're transitioning and while they're transforming. And you can be a part of that transformation process once you join the club. So you can see for yourself how this works and you can participate so that you can transform your speech. So there's absolutely no reason, if your speech is holding you back, there's no reason for you not to change that. If you're willing to put in the time and work, which you have to do if you want to change your brain, then you can and most certainly will see results, again, because it's just how our brains work. So you have a free ticket that we're giving you. If you go to our website, and Farouk will put a link to our Virtual Speech Masters Club in the chat. You'll also get it in an email that I send out. But you can join us one time for free and experience everything. And one of the things that many of our clients have struggled with, and as they progress through the process, they struggle with less and less and less, is worry and negative anticipation. So first, let's just get a little definition here. I'm going to share a little whiteboard, and I'll be sharing this off and on throughout the webinar. But what is negative anticipation? So it's when you, or worry even, it's when you kind of go into the future, right? You go into the future, so it hasn't happened yet, and you're literally grabbing in your mind a potential failure. You're going into the future and you're grabbing something that hasn't happened yet and you're bringing it into the present moment. So you're thinking about it, you're feeling it in your body, and often you're talking about it, right? And what else are you doing? Well, it can affect your performance in the present moment. So I've literally watched people talk about something that happened in the past or some struggle or difficulty that they were anticipating. And in that moment, you could see their speech start to decline. You could see them, you could see the tension, you could see them start to get stuck. And they're talking about something that either already happened or hasn't happened yet. So that goes to show you the power of our mind and our thoughts and what we think and talk about. We've been doing a series on the placebo effect. If you haven't gotten that series, let me know and we'll make sure that you can access it. You can also access it on a Spotify video podcast, which will make sure that we get you a link to that. You can see the whole series there. But negative anticipation and worry are very similar, but they're not exactly the same. So I want to explain that a little bit. So negative anticipation it's not just a fear, but it's a loop, right? Where you're going back and remembering something that happened in the past and you're pulling it forward to the future. And so in other words, you're saying, well, this happened to me in the past, so it'll probably happen again. I have this interview coming up or a meeting coming up, or I have to introduce myself, or I have to make a phone call. I've had problems with it in the past, so I'll probably have problems with it again. And even if you're not consciously thinking that, your brain has recorded what happened in the past, right? And it's essentially recorded in what we call your basal ganglia, which automates everything. And so it just says, hey, we're probably going to have problems with this, and this is the way we're going to speak. We're going to get stuck. We're going to block. We're just going to have trouble. So you start to anticipate not only situations, but also even individual words and sounds. Oh, here comes a word that I'm going to have a problem with. Okay, so this is something that happens and has happened to probably all of us, and sometimes it may still occasionally happen, but we'll talk about how you can still perform well, even if you negatively anticipate. But this is what negative anticipation is. Worry's a little different. Worry can be more general. You can worry about something specific, but in the way we're defining it, worry is just, I have a I have a meeting that's coming up in a couple of weeks or a month, and I'm just worried about it. So I just might not do well. Or you might just be walking around having this sense of worry and just worried about any speaking situation that I might have. I remember some years ago where it felt like I had a big black wet blanket over me all the time. So I felt just a little tense, a little stressed all the time. That's just in general worry and stress. And something happened when I was at seminary where there was a major transformation and I physically, emotionally felt a big weight being lifted off. And I remember saying to myself, wow, I can do anything I want now. My speech is not only not going to hold me back, but it's actually going to help me. I can do anything. And I was still struggling a little bit then, but it's worry can be more general and generic, where negative anticipation is very, very specific, specific situation, specific words, sounds, people, right? It's very specific. So that's the difference. One can be more general and one can be more specific. Farouk, Jay, anything to add?
Just one quick thing. I used to have this habit loop happen to me all of the time. Like almost every time I had an opportunity to speak, I would have this habit loop happen all the time, from phone calls to meetings. And one of the more common areas it would happen was interviews. Almost every time I found that the more emotionally tied to the outcome I was, the more it would happen. Meaning, if I had been interviewing for, let's say, 3 or 4 months, and I had been looking and looking and looking, and still quite hadn't had a job yet, I would be so emotionally tied to the outcome, meaning I wanted this to go well. And of course, all of us do. But I found that in my own journey, the more emotionally tied I am to the outcome of something, the more I have a tendency to worry, the more I have a tendency to almost over anticipate things moving in a strange way or me having a hard time and so on. So one of the mental shifts that I had to employ was don't be so married to the outcome. Don't be so married to the outcome. We just want to improve marginally over the last time. Of course, you want a job, and so I need money, but you want to just aim to make that small 1, maybe 2% incremental improvement over the last time, as opposed to I need this to go super, super perfect. Because once that starts to happen, it's very hard to escape the habit loop, as you said, of the negative anticipation cycle. So,
Absolutely, brother. Absolutely. Yeah, Farouk.
Yeah, something very short, like Jake talked about a generic situation. And like you talked about specific words, Michael, like people sometimes, whenever they see that word, they start to anticipate it. And some people think that the issue is with the words. But sometimes what happens is that they can catch themselves saying those words smoothly for some reason. And then looking back and saying that, how was I able to say those words out smoothly? It means that something is going around with anticipation. The issue is not with any specific words. It's not that you can't say L's or M's or P's. It's with the anticipation and fear of those words that we are going to be speaking about right here that is important. And usually, what happens, like Michael also said, that once they start to anticipate a word, even before they get on that word, they start to get stuck on the words they weren't even anticipating. So the word they are anticipating is impacting their speech on the other words as well. So just wanted to add that.
So guys, this really is, yes, it's physical, it's physiological, but I would say that what's driving it is our mindset, our thoughts, our beliefs, attitudes, all of those things are drastically impacting your speech. And so in Pro90D, which is a holistic process, we're helping you change your mindset, change your thoughts, change your beliefs, change your identity, because that's what's going to help you become more resilient, bounce back. But it's also going to help improve your performance, right? The more you change your beliefs, your identity, who you see yourself as being, the things that you believe that you tend to do, well, I'm the kind of person that can handle this. That's my identity. All of those things will impact your self-confidence, will impact how you speak. So let's take a look now at this next question that we will talk about today, and that is, why does negative anticipation hurt you? So as I just talked about, I was walking around feeling a little stressed, anxious almost all the time, right? So it can affect your sleep, your breathing, your concentration. So it can affect your health. It also physically prepares your body to fail. So when you start to negatively anticipate, and you guys know this, you can feel sometimes your throat start to tighten up. Your heart starts to race. Your brain gets foggy. Okay, all these things happen before you're even in the situation. So remember, you're going forward, grabbing something that hasn't happened and bringing it back into the present, and you're just replaying it, or you're playing it over and over, you're thinking about it. And it's having a physical as well as an emotional impact on you now, right? And not only will it affect you now, it obviously will affect your future performance. So if you have an interview or a meeting or phone call and you have to say something, as soon as you start to negatively anticipate it, it starts affecting you now, right? And then, of course, it affects you then. You're setting yourself up for failure when you start to worry and negatively anticipate the negative. Now, I know you're thinking, well, what can we do about it? So I'm going to give you at least 5 solutions. Farouk and Jade are also going to jump in and share some things from their perspective that has helped them, that is helping them. Negative anticipation also leads to avoidance. So when we say avoidance, more than likely, you already know what that means, but give me some specific examples, either those of you in the audience watching or Farouk or Jade. Give me some specific examples of things that you might avoid because of negative anticipation, and how that avoidance can hurt you professionally, personally, and socially. Because you're negatively anticipating lots of different things, different situations, you're avoiding them. How is that hurting you? So give me some specific examples and talk about how that might hurt you professionally, personally, and socially. We can, you guys can start. Jade or Farouk. Yeah, go ahead, Farouk.
Yeah, sure. So something which used to happen with me a lot, and I've also seen it happen with various clients, that if they have to speak to their boss, if they have to speak to one of their clients or whoever it is, so instead of having a meeting, instead of having a phone call, they would switch more towards an email. They would switch more towards a WhatsApp message. So trying to find ways where they can write down stuff or asking someone else to speak instead of them. And I remember that I used to struggle saying the word present during my attendance. So I used to have someone else mark it for me. And it used to feel pretty horrible because the class used to ask me that why you're doing that. So finding ways to not get into this situation, asking someone else to order for you, do things for you, or if you have to do it yourself, instead of making yourself speak, doing it over emails or writing messages and stuff like that. So, and this goes on with like most of the situations, interviews and phone conversations and stuff like that. So, yeah.
Jade, do you have any specific examples and or how you could also answer how this might hurt you personally, professionally, or socially?
Yeah, I used to struggle with this one quite a bit. One of the ones that actually comes to my mind is in school. If I had to give a presentation, I would almost try the hardest I could to avoid it. And I remember and I recall in college, one of the classes I had, you only had to do two things. You had to take a midterm and you had to give two presentations. I took the midterm and I literally avoided both presentations and I failed the class. And of course, a few years later, I was able to see how completely illogical this was. And, but it happens to us all the time. You have the meeting and you have the thing that you know could potentially change your life. And due to this habit loop, we just completely avoid it. So a good reframe I found is that the measure of success is whether or not you show up. If you just merely attend the thing, you're successful, you won. And in terms of how it can hurt you, of course, in a more professional setting, if you're not showing up to meetings, if you're not adding to the conversations in meetings, you can come off as not as engaged. You can come off as not as competent as other folks who are just more vocal and more expressive. So I would say that it can really hurt you in terms of your career trajectory if you're not seen as a person who is as confident as they could be in sharing thoughts and adding to the conversations. But for me, I will never forget failing that class in college because I didn't even go. Completely ridiculous, but it happened.
Let me give you another. Yes, Farouk.
Yeah, Michael, just one thing that I would add to that. And what would happen each time is that the worry would increase. So one time when you just avoid a situation,
Mhm.
the next time you go into it, the worry would be even more. And then you do it again, and then you go into it, and then the worry would be even more. So instead of it decreasing it, the worry would keep increasing every time. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I'm glad you said that because I'm gonna give you a specific example of a client who's on here right now, and I'm just gonna share with you just a little story about something he's doing specific to this. And I'm gonna give you another example of how this can hurt you, both professionally and socially. So interviews, interviews. Think about that. Or even starting your own business and sales calls, right, Jay? So if you're struggling with your speech, whatever that looks like for you, you know that you want to and you deserve a higher position or a different job, earning more or doing more of what you want, more of what you're capable of doing. You've got the experience, you've got the knowledge, right? You can do it. But you avoid applying for the job because of your speech. Therefore, your speech literally is holding you back professionally. Just like Jake said, in meetings, I mean, I can't tell you how many thousands of people I've talked to hold back in meetings just because they're afraid that they're going to get stuck. They're not going to come off as intelligent and articulate as they'd like to be. So they hold back so they don't present themselves to be as competent and confident as someone else who might know less, but they're just more vocal. So therefore, your peers and your superiors begin to see you in a certain way. Oh, this person isn't as sharp or competent, or they're not leadership material. Maybe they know how competent you are, but you're just not articulating. Well, they're not leadership material. So definitely directly can hurt your career, right? You don't apply for jobs, you might not speak up, you might not take up leadership roles because of your speech. Socially, you don't go out as much or you don't really participate in conversations. So you're social, so you're not living your best social life. Or even with family. I have a guy who went through the program not too long ago, and I think his name was Jacob. And he said he hadn't had a good conversation with his father like his whole life. These are his words, like I never really had a good conversation. bam, went through the program. And even before we got done, he says, now I'm having more and more and better and deeper conversations with my father. He's not the first guy who said that. I've had other clients who said the same. Imagine that, someone that you're around your whole life and you're not able to really communicate with them as well as you would like. That really can hold you back, right? Emotionally and psychologically. It's just your relationships, the enjoyment that you get going out, having fun, talking with family and friends. So these are all things that are the effects of negative anticipation. Now, let me give you the other example, specific example from Jamal. So Jamal said that what he does now is he kind of reframes it. So when his brain used to say, uh-oh, here's a word, here's a situation that I feel like I might get stuck on. So his brain would say, don't speak up, don't say anything, right? Don't talk. So he wouldn't. So he would avoid it, and then it would get worse, like you both said. So now what he does is he's flipped the script. Whenever his brain says, well, I think you're going to get stuck, you're going to have problems with this, he says, great, then I'm just going to say it. I'm just going to do it anyway, right? So he actually, anytime that he negatively anticipate, he uses that, he has the courage and confidence to move into it, to do it, to say it, to join in, right? And what this does is it decreases and diminishes his negative anticipation because he's standing up to it. He's actually saying, oh, this is an opportunity for me to practice. Same thing with Alice. I think Alice is here. She told me almost the same thing. She's actually looking forward to speaking situations now, which decreases, diminishes, and in some cases even eliminates negative anticipation. So one of the lessons here is to embrace whenever you feel like, oh, I don't think I can say this. Oh, great. I'm going to go ahead and try to practice saying this. Or, oh, I think I might get stuck over here. Great. Let me just go and try to do it. And you have tools. We're giving you tools. Now, if you're out there by yourself and you're not a part of the community and you don't have the tools, then you might keep reinforcing failure. But if you have the tools and you're using them and you're getting guidance from us and from your peers in our community, then guess what? You are going to see some progress. And Jamal is seeing progress. Alice, everyone else, you're seeing progress. Bob is here. You're seeing progress. Sometimes it's small, sometimes it's big, but you'll see progress and it'll accumulate like a snowball. Okay. So it's very important. That's why we spent so much time for you to clarify in your own mind, wow, this is how this is impacting me. This is how this is impacting my life. And it doesn't have to. That's the good news. It doesn't have to. Okay. So now let's start talking about some of the solutions. I'm going to run through some solutions for you. And these are tried and true. They're tested. They're also science-based. And you can go out and do a lot of research and you're going to find these and more, but we're just going to share these with you. And this is a big one, believe it or not. This might not hit you just yet, but it will hit you at some point and you'll be like, wow, it's not a matter of trying to do more. It's really a matter of doing less. What do I mean by that? Be present. So when you're present, you're not imagining what could go wrong. You're not out there in the future. And I'll give you one very, very discrete example of being present. When you're in a conversation, right? You're in a conversation, rather than thinking about what you're going to say next, or what am I going to say? How am I going to respond to this? What should I say? I hope I say the right thing. Oh, I want to say this, but I feel like I might get stuck or this might not come out. So you're out there in the future, negatively anticipate, or even just worrying about what you're going to say, which means you're not in the present moment and you're not fully listening to the other person. Okay? This is very common. It's very, very, very common. But when you learn to be present, you literally empty your mind and you soak in what that other person is saying, and you trust that you'll respond in the way that you want when it's your turn, when it's your time. So when you're present, you're in the present moment, you've emptied your mind, you're no longer worried about speaking because you're not thinking about speaking. You're literally tuned in to what that other person is saying. And this takes a lot of stress and a lot of pressure, and it wipes out negative anticipation because you're in the present. This next piece, we're going to talk about this a little later, but it's what we call mental puzzles. It's a mental puzzle. So when you're present, one of the things that you can do periodically is think about Vic and Rick, meaning rather than thinking about something negative, there is a place and there is a time to think about something constructive, something that's going to help you stay tuned in to the conversation or give a better interview or better presentation. These are mental puzzles, even modeling, right? They're mental puzzles, and it gets your mind focused on something that's positive and constructive. So sometimes you can do that in a conversation or in an interview, in a presentation to help you, but it's always good to spend most of your time in the present moment. Farouk, Jade, guys have anything to add? Any examples or insights that you want to share about learning to be more present?
So, Michael. So, what I would say on this is that bringing the focus time after time towards the present moment is going to come with practice. So, don't just try to do it once and say that it's not happening. It's just like working on your speech. It's not that you would go out there, focus on modeling or focus on whatever you have to. You would start seeing some results instantly. But in order for them to have a longer term impact, you would have to keep focusing on it. Your mind would keep shifting the focus back, and then you would, it's like forcing yourself to focus on what you want and replacing it with it. Likewise, like Michael said, once you're in a conversation, your mind, while the other person is speaking, is going to want to still think about what you have to say next. So the moment you focus on him, your mind would be back to what you have to say next. Then you put your focus back onto it again. Then it goes back. Then you put back. Then it goes back. So you keep doing it, and you would find that when you keep doing that, it becomes easier and easier. So, like Jade also said, see it in incremental progress. And the more you do that, the better you would get at this skill, and the easier would it be for you to stay in the present moment. And when you do that, not only your speech, your life as a whole is going to improve a lot. So, yeah.
Exactly. So conversations was just one example, but just life in general, I found that when I started staying more in the present, and if I did think about something, it would be goals, some positive goal, something that I wanted to achieve. How can I help my clients more? What I want to create this, I want to start. So always something constructive, something positive. If something negative was happening or something wasn't going the way I would like, then rather than worrying about it, I say, all right, what can I do about it? How can I change this? How can I take positive, constructive action? Once you start taking constructive action, then you find that you feel more confident, you feel freer, you don't feel trapped. So in the present moment, either I'm just in the moment observing what's going on, and I'll give you a little exercise to do that. I'm in the moment observing what's going on, kind of going with the flow, or I'm thinking about something constructive and positive. I try to keep negative thoughts out. This is very, very powerful. So here's an exercise, and here's something else you can do. In fact, well, we'll talk about this other thing later. But one of the exercises helps you to be more in the present moment, mindfulness. One exercise that you can do is take one of your senses and focus on what's happening around you. So, for example, your sight. You could just sit in a room quietly and relaxed and observe what's in that room. So there's going to be things that are in the room, in a room that maybe you're in a lot that you forgot was there or that you didn't even notice because we're always so busy. So you learn how to just look around and see everything that you could see in that particular room. The same thing with sound. You could sit someplace and just listen to the sounds. Maybe it's birds, maybe it's traffic, maybe it's the humming of an appliance or some noise or something, just observing what's going on around you. So you can use all of your senses to do this. And what this helps you do is learn how to be more mindful and more present and be observant of what's going on around you, as well as what's going on inside you. When you do this, I promise you, your mind will drift and you'll start thinking about what you're going to eat for dinner, or you'll start thinking about something, right? Something else could be negative. You might worry about something, but when you practice it, you don't fight your mind. You just let that thought float through and you gently bring your attention back to whatever sense you're focusing on, your smell, your taste, your sight, your sound. And the more you do that, the less those other thoughts will pass through. They still will occasionally, but they'll pass through faster. Not as many will pass through. They won't be there as long because you're learning to be more centered, more mindful, more present. So that's an exercise that you can do. Okay, so that's one. Believe it or not, that one could be the thing that releases you from negative anticipation, just learning to be more present. So each of these are very, very powerful and helpful. Let's take a look at another solution. And don't, as we say, don't poo-poo these. Like, don't say, oh, presence, okay, that's not going to help. Like Farouk says, takes time, but I would say one of the most profound transformations I've had over the last 10 years was learning to be more present. Like, that's the thing that took my speech and life up to a whole nother level. So could be something just as small and as basic as that might sound, that literally that's the thing that could transform you, right? But let's talk about this next one. Play mental puzzles like Vic, Rick, and modeling. So I heard this a long time ago and I understood it, but then I kind of started to think about it and I've been doing it for years, but I heard this again. So let's talk about modeling. What is modeling? Modeling is observational learning. You step out of yourself and you step into a better vision or version of yourself. Remember this. Growing up as a child, you learned most of what you know from modeling. You learned characteristics, how people walk, how they hold their heads, different kinds of things, how to speak, your accent, your language. You learned all of that by observing the people around you, model. So it's natural, it's innate, it's something that you already know how to do. You and I still model right now as adults, believe it or not. That's why we have to be very, very careful about the people we spend a lot of time with, because we do pick up characteristics, beliefs, thoughts, behaviors from those around us. There's something called mirror neurons. These are neurons that light up in the areas of your brain that control certain behaviors. So it could be sports, could be music, could be conversations. When you see or hear other people doing it, if you're familiar with that behavior, the neurons that manage that behavior in your brain begin to light up when you observe someone else doing it. And so the more you observe someone doing something, the more those neurons light up and actually strengthen that behavior in yourself. So that's why when you're modeling, you observe, you study, you watch, you listen, you practice, for example, speaking like your model. So just that observation can help change, improve, and transform your own speech just by watching and listening how someone else speaks. Okay. Vic and Rick, it's another mental puzzle. What do we mean by mental puzzle? Well, it gives your brain something else to focus on, something that's positive and constructive in the moment. So while you're speaking, while you're in that meeting, while you're in that interview, while you're doing the presentation, your mind can be trying to solve this mental puzzle. Like, how would my model speak right now? That's a mental puzzle. So your mind goes out and it says, how would my model speak? Let me try to solve this. Let me try to speak the way my model would. How would my model feel right now? So your brain tries to solve that puzzle in the moment. So it pulls you towards something that's positive and constructive, as opposed to you're thinking about getting stuck or fear of judgment, any of those negative things that will hurt your performance. Vic and Rick, value, impact, clarity, relevance, impact, clarity. You ask yourself, is what I'm saying valuable? Is it relevant to this conversation? Am I holding their attention? Am I being clear? Have I laid this out clearly? So your mind is trying to do those things, which is positive, it's constructive. So if you're thinking about that, trust me, you can think about that and the content at the same time, right? We know this because you can think negative things and the content, because that happens all the time. So if you can think something negative, you can what? You can think something positive, right? And the positive is going to help you. So these are mental puzzles. Like, how can I make this clear? So the more you think it and the more you try to do it, the clearer your message will become. When you're modeling, you're also changing your identity, because temporarily you're assuming the identity of your model. You're literally like becoming your model. And that's just a bridge to a better version of yourself. When you do that enough, all of a sudden you don't have to think about your model, or you don't think about your model. It's now you, because you've carried those experiences that you've gotten, those positive experiences. By modeling, you've brought it forward and it becomes yours. Okay, so play mental puzzles. Jade, Farouk, any comments, insights?
I wanted to add a quick note on modeling here. I have a young son. He is a little over a year and he's now walking. And I literally watched him learn to walk. He used to creep and then he learned how to crawl. And then he's now actively walking. And it's exactly as you said, he learned it over time. He sees me walking all day. He sees my mom. And he's learning by watching us how to actually move his legs and his feet to learn how to walk. And it's so funny how that same model can be applied to any other skill, how you speak, how you walk, how you talk, and so on. And so I literally in real time had the opportunity to watch my son's brain form and learn a new habit. And the fact that the same way that he learned how to walk is applied to how we speak is absolutely fascinating. And it further proves that with practice every single day, even if you screw up sometime, even if you are stuck sometimes, so what? As long as you continue to reinforce the habit over time, it at some point has to become automatic as it has for my son. So just wanted to mention that it's literally how the brain works and it's how all of us learn how to form new habits. And so it's just the science and it's just the facts, you know?
Let me just add something real quick here. Because I've said this before, is how children learn how to speak, how they learn how to walk. Your baby didn't give up. Your baby didn't get up and try for a couple of days and say, you know what, this is not working out. I'm just going to keep crawling, right? I keep falling, so I'm just going to keep crawling. Baby didn't do that. Just kept getting up, trying, observing, figuring it out as a baby. Your baby's not reading books and watching and taking classes on how to walk or how to speak. Not yet, right? It's just observing and trying over and over until it gets it, until it works. We have to do the same thing, right? You just because you're trying something new, just remember the baby. Keeps trying to walk, keeps trying to talk, and finally it starts to work. You have to be that relentless, that perseverant, that persistent, that, you know what? I know I'm going to be able to walk. I know I'm going to be able to speak well. I just have to keep doing this and figure out how to make this work for me. Okay. All right. Let's take a look now at this next one here. So, number one, be more present. Number two, play mental puzzles. This is also very, very powerful. So keep that in mind. Replace negative self-talk with passive learning. What do we mean by passive learning? Well, I believe I was talking to one of my clients, Diane, and she said that one of the things she does every day throughout the day, she listens to our daily audios, the affirmation audios. And she just plays those all the time. She says, I got to start listening to some other things. There's some other courses and programs that you have, but I just like to listen to these audios because it helps change my mindset. It helps me make me feel more calm, more relaxed, more confident. So what you listen to daily changes how you think, right? It changes how you think about your speech, about yourself, about your life in general, because it's an input, right? You're listening to it and literally it changes. So what you're doing is you're replacing all the negative stuff with something that's more positive and more constructive. And you're doing it on a daily basis. And you won't believe how powerful that is. That's one of the reasons Pro90D works, because we have lots of audio, lots of video, and lots of affirmational stuff that you can listen to. And it's passive because you're just listening. You don't have to repeat it if you don't want to. Just listen to it and let it just bathe your mind. Visualization and verbalization, while that's not passive, but they're very powerful and can help change what you're thinking, your performance, so forth and so on. So positive self-talk. This is what you say to yourself throughout the day. Are you saying negative things or are you saying constructive things? But it's also what you say to yourself in the moment. So it could be something as basic as relax, remember to breathe, slow down, take your time. In some cases, I've had some people use this affirmation. It doesn't really matter, or I don't really care who's here. It's when you're around people in authority or you're around a certain number. You know what? It doesn't really matter who's here. I don't care if it's the president. I'm going to say what I want to say the way I want to say. I'm going to relax, take my time, and say what I want the way I want. That's self-talk. And when you tell yourself that, you take back your power. You feel more in control of your speech, over your life. You don't feel that time pressure, even if they're rushing, or you feel like they're rushing, or you feel like you have to hurry up. When you say something, I'm going to take my time and say what I want the way I want to say it. That changes everything. So what you say to yourself throughout the day and in the moment, and even after, right? How you review what's happened, what you say to yourself, and the stuff that you're listening to changes your mindset, your emotions, your feelings, and your performance. Okay. Farouk, Jay?
Yeah, Michael, sure. So audio listening is something that I usually recommend a lot when you're having depth in your speech. Like you have to keep doing it as a whole, obviously, but especially when you're in a dip and you're trying everything and you feel like it's just not working, those are the special times where your mind would start to shift to thoughts that probably I told myself that it's not for me. It might work for the rest of the people. It's not for me. I tried, it worked, but I'm back again. So when you listen to the audios, not just once, not just twice, over and over again, it brings your mindset back to where it was. So audio listening is incredibly important to change your mindset as a whole, especially during the times where you feel like you're facing dips, which you will during your speech journey. It's not a smooth journey like this. It's ups, downs, but the overall movement is still upwards if you keep doing the work on a daily basis. So, constantly listening to content on YouTube, constantly listening to content in the self study course and the Soundwise app really starts to change how you feel. And getting out of the dips becomes a lot easier when you're consistently listening to the audios. So, just wanted to add that about the audio.
Thank you. One client, don't remember exactly, I don't know if you're here or not today, but said that they are really enjoying Spotify podcasts. So I'm definitely going to grab the link for that. Probably most of you have heard of Spotify. So we have some audio podcasts there, but we have video podcasts, which you don't have to watch. You can just listen to those. But let me grab that And I'm going to paste that here for you to join in, because that's another tool. They have their own app. It's all set up. It's like having a coach in your pocket. We also have SoundWise. Generally speaking, you have to be a member of either coaching or virtual speech masters, and you get access to all of our audio programs there. But you can access stuff for free right here on this Spotify. Okay. So self-talk, in fact, I would say without self-talk, you're not going to be successful at hardly anything, right? If you're not telling yourself, oh, I can do this, or here's what I need to do, you're probably not going to do it, because you're going to go on, what's the word I'm looking for? You're going to be on automatic mode, right? Where you just do whatever you've been doing. So you got to become aware, hey, I don't really like the way this is going. I don't like what I'm doing here or what I'm thinking. I need to change this. And then you need to tell yourself, okay, here's what I want to do instead, right? And you got to do it throughout the day and in the moment. That's very important. While you're speaking, while you're in an interview, while you have to talk to yourself, because if not, your brain automatically, the basal ganglia primarily, which automates your behavior, automatically takes over, because that's its job. So your prefrontal cortex is what you're using to think about what you want to say. So then your basal ganglia says, oh, okay, we're just going to automate, or we're going to do what we usually do in the way that we speak. We're going to speak fast. We're going to get stuck. We're going to have shortness of breath, because it's automatic. So for a period of time, your prefrontal cortex has to say, wait a minute, we got to take this behavior back, and we want to do it this way. So you're literally reprogramming your procedural memory, right, in your basal ganglia to say, no, we want to change this programming. We want to breathe more. We want to speak smoother. We want to do this. And you can, right? And you will, but you have to be conscious, and you have to do it before and during and even after. Excuse me. All right, so let's take a look at this next one here. It is desensitize yourself through practice, right? Desensitize yourself through practice. So some years ago, we created Virtual Speech Masters Club because we felt like this would be a great value add for our clients. And we do it every Saturday. This would help put people under pressure in a safe, supportive environment where they also get expert feedback, peer feedback, and they get to provide feedback. So they have another opportunity to speak. So what happens is you're learning a new skill, and then you go out and you have a conversation, you have a Zoom call, you have an interview, a presentation, whatever. And here's what happens. This is what people say. Everything goes where? Out the window, right? You're under pressure, goes out the window. What does that mean? Well, that means that when you're under pressure, all of a sudden, your amygdala, your stress response system, fight, flight, or freeze, begins to take over, because it sees whatever you're doing as a threat. It sees saying a word as a threat, giving your name as a threat, giving certain numbers, speaking in certain situations. It sees it as a threat, like almost life-threatening. So it goes into action, and it causes your throat to tighten up. It causes you to start sweating. You get cloudy mind, right? Your breathing becomes more shallow. You get tense. You forget what you want to say. You freeze up. Or you avoid, you run away, right? You run away, or you don't do it. So what has to happen, because you can visualize and you can verbalize, but what ultimately has to happen is you have to put yourself in the situation. You have to expose yourself and desensitize yourself. They do it in the military, and they do it in all different kinds of places, in sports, in music. You have to put yourself in the situation so that you learn how to decloud your mind and give yourself commands to do the things you want to do in that moment. And you can't do it unless you put yourself under pressure. Either in real life, you can do it on your own, or you can join us and do it with us. Jay, Farouk, any examples, anything to add there?
This one here is an absolute major key. You have to put in the practice. If for if for whatever reason the opportunities aren't around, you have to literally go out and create them. This was one of the main things I learned from Michael, and it makes me reminded of around 2020 or so when everyone were working from home and there weren't as many opportunities every single day to practice. You literally had to go out and create them. If that means you got to walk to the store and just talk to people who you see along the way, if it means that you have to organize a group of your friends and hop on mock calls, whatever it is you need to do to consciously and proactively create the opportunity, you have to. So long as you wait, the the mind and the brain, as Michael so aptly said, will fall into old habits. I only speak when an opportunity comes to me, as opposed to I go out and consciously seek them out. And so one of the things that Farouk and I used to do around 2020 is we had group calls every afternoon. And we would hop on and do presentations and we would do practice every afternoon because the real life opportunities weren't as abundant. And so again, we had to consciously seek them out and consciously create them to make sure that we were accurately mimicking the real life pressure you would feel if you were in certain situations. So wanted to just drop in a key point that you gotta get the practicing under pressure. You will suck at first, you will struggle at first, but the more you do it, the more the brain learns, hey, I'm okay, I'm safe, I got this. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. So Jade mentioned a very great point about being more proactive. And like Michael has said various times, that the more you do it being proactive, the easier will it be for you when you're not proactive. Like when someone comes up to you where you have to necessarily speak. So there, the pressure stakes might be a bit high. So first, what you want to do is to get yourself out there proactively, just for the sake of practice. You can make something up to say to your friend, you can make something up to say in your class, in your office, just for the sake of practice. And the more you do that, when you're not proactive and when you have to do that, it becomes a lot easier. So that proactivity is incredibly, incredibly important. So it's like slowly moving up from no pressure to low pressure to medium pressure to high pressure. If you don't use it in low and medium pressure, some people feel like right now I'm speaking with my friends, with my family, they are used to it. I'm used to it the way that I speak. So let's just speak in that way. Now I'm in an interview. I have to get the job. So I have to use it. And then they try to use it, but it does not work. Why? Because they have not been doing it in no low or medium pressure. So it's about slowly shifting yourself upwards as you move with this journey, working on your speech by yourself, getting yourself out there, proactively using it in every single speaking situation. It's your mom, it's your dad, it's your friends, it's your family, it's whoever it is. Because if you want it to work in the high pressure, if in the high pressure you don't want it to go out of the window, use more of it in low pressure and then proactively get there. So,
Exactly. One thing that I like to say is if you want to be able to say what you want, whatever you want, then you have to practice with everyone everywhere, right? If you want to be able to say anything, anytime you want, then you have to practice with everyone everywhere all the time. So every time you open your mouth, you got to see it as practice, and you have to go and create different speaking situations. Because if you do it all the time, then guess what? You'll be able to do it anytime. You'll be able to do it every time if you're doing it all the time. So just like Farouk just said, it's very, very important. And here's what I found. The higher the pressure, the more you put yourself under pressure, I like to say your confidence builds exponentially, right? It just goes up. So if you're having small, low to no pressure speaking situations or experiences, that's great. They're necessary. But when you put yourself under pressure, like a presentation, interview, mock interview practices or whatever, virtual speech master, and you're putting yourself under pressure and you start to see yourself perform well, your confidence increases exponentially. You're like, wow, if I could do that, then I can do this over here. The key is when you start to do that, try to be as in control, law of control. The more in control you are, or the more you feel like you're in control over any given situation, the freer you feel, the better you feel, the more confident you feel, the more options you feel like you have. So go out, and I'll give you an example. I would create presentations and then go out and say, hey, can I come to the college and give this presentation on goal setting? They say, yeah, I created it. I'm in control of it, but it's a high pressure speaking situation, but I was in control of it. So because I was in control, I performed better. The same thing could be something as simple as when you go to order coffee, you proactively give your name first. Now they might use, hi, yeah, my name is Michael and I want to get blah, blah, blah. And they'll go, okay, but okay, so what did you want again? Yeah, I want this. And what was your name again? Right. But you proactively gave your name. That's just a small example. When I make phone calls, I don't have to do it. I just do it anyway. Hi, this is Michael Williams and I'm calling about such and such. So you want to be proactive. You want to feel like you're in control. When I was working in corporate environments, people would often ask me to lead meetings because they know that I was clear, that I was organized, and so forth. So if I'm in a meeting and I'm leading the meeting, then I'm kind of in control. So I feel more confident. So I can say, well, Bob, why don't you tell us about that, right? So I'm in control. I'm leading the meeting. So I can speak whenever I want to speak, right? So try to take or be in control. You're being proactive, and then put yourself under pressure. Okay. Excuse me. So let's take a look now. We just have one or two more items here. Desensitize yourself. I got to say, that one's like, they're all important, which is why they're all here. They're all very, very important. If you don't do, if you don't do any of these, you're probably not going to be successful. If you don't expose yourself and desensitize yourself, you're going to be one of the ones saying, it goes out the window. It goes, I've literally watched people like Jade and everyone else come into virtual speech masters in their first week or two or three. Even you could tell the difference from week to week. Nervous, choppy, cloudy mind, right? And then the next week, a little bit smoother, a little bit better. The next week, next week, next week. Now, Jade, whenever we have contests, we've got a few people who just win all the time. That's how good they are. We have a client named Mirella. She's coming now. She's starting to win. She always does a great job, but she's just getting better and better. Yvonne Edamenciana, we have all kinds of people are coming in, and we've just watched them come in under pressure. Gabriel, who used to come in and would use likes, and just all kinds of filler words. Now he's, one of our better speakers. So you'll see yourself grow from week to week. And Jorge, he actually says, Michael, I'll give you a testimonial because as a direct result of attending these sessions, I got a better job. I'm getting paid more, right? So you got to put yourself out there under pressure and you'll see the results from week to week. And you'll obviously see it in your professional life, your personal life, your social life. Let's talk about this last one here. Exchange old memories for positive speaking experiences, right? Your brain doesn't care about the past when you give it new data. So this is why it's important to focus on your successes, no matter how small they are. You got to filter in, oh, wow, here's what I did well, and here's what I'd like to do better the next time. That kind of feedback is very different. What did I do wrong? I really sucked at that. Oh, that just really sucked bad. Instead, you're just like, all right, didn't quite go the way I thought or the way I wanted, but I did do this well. And the next time I want to focus on doing this better. So you want to create new reference points through modeling, proactive speaking skills, free flow speaking, where you literally start to experience smoother speech. So you and your brain knows, yes, I can do this. I know what this feels like. Now let me try to go out and do it in real life. And then let me see what I did well, and let me see what I need to do to fix this. So what you're doing is you're overriding your negative memories and you're creating more and more confidence that you can do it because you are doing it, you're experiencing it. This, again, is very, very important that you kind of exchange those old memories for new positive speaking experiences, which we help you create through modeling, through free flow speaking, through proactive speaking skills, and all the things in the system, and through our virtual speech masters club, right? We help you create those new memories. Okay, so Jade, Farouk, anything to say about the creation of new memories, like how you might interpret negative experiences that you like when you didn't do well, you didn't do as well as you could have? What was your self-talk? What did you do to kind of help yourself be more resilient and bounce back faster than what you used to? Jay, I know you and I talked specifically about this before, how now you're just like, oh, okay, I did it. I could have done better, but I did it, and the next time I'll do better.
100%. In fact, one of the old habits I used to have was the negative framing after the thing, meaning I would reflect on it and I would almost hyper focus and hone in on the things I did poorly. And attached to that was a lot of shame and just kind of feeling like I failed.
Mm.
The reframe and the mental shift I had to make was, what are the one, two, maybe at most the three things I did well? I breathed more. I was able to extend my words more. Excellent job. And I focus on those into the future as opposed to honing in on the one time I said something wrong right on stuff. My mindset is now, what are the one, two, three things I did well? And how can I continue to, again, incrementally improve them? It isn't about hitting home runs every time. What are the small things I'm seeing myself improve at more? I felt more relaxed. Congrats, you were successful. So that reframing and no longer associating shame and guilt and failure after the event has happened is one of the most, if not the most powerful mental shift that has to happen in order for you to reach the next level. You just have to see it as another opportunity in a future plethora of opportunities, and I incrementally improve, and so I'm successful.
Very, very good. Yes, sir, Farouk.
Yeah, so the best point mentioned by Jade right here is that once you look out for successes, you would often find them. Like some people, when they have a conversation, they feel like it was a failure. But when they try to find successes, like I've had some of my clients try to look out for them, they say that no, it was a failure as a whole. But when they look at it, they would at least say one thing, like believe me, at least one thing. At least this was good. So when they say that, when your focus starts to shift towards the successes, that is what you get more of. Sometimes we start to overlook our successes. I was just reading an article for my work before this, and it was mainly about stress and depression and stuff. And one line which really struck me was that the people who are depressed, the people who are stressed, often overlook the good things that are happening in their lives. It's not that those things are not happening, but their mind has just built a resistance to looking at them. And they're just focusing on the negative. Even the neutral situations, they are looking at them as negative. So it's incredibly important to start shifting your focus, shifting your mind towards the successes. And I just challenge you to find out successes. Even if you feel like the conversation wasn't very good, try to find out something. Was this good? Was that good? And you would almost always find something that went good. Be happy about it, celebrate it. learn from why you did not do well for the rest. Probably I was going a little fast. Probably I wasn't modeling, wasn't using my hands. Next time, all right, I'll make sure that I do that. So focusing on the successes is incredibly important. During the times where you get stuck, look at it like a bump in the road. You're on the road to smooth and excellent speech. Having a bump does not get you off the road. If you face a bump on a highway, it does not get you off the highway. You're still on the highway and you still keep moving forward. You just look at it like a small bump in the road. And one last point, measure your successes in terms of smoothness instead of, and I think we mentioned it in the last webinar as well, instead of I got stuck less or I got stuck more or I'm getting stuck more. This shift of focus is also incredibly important. The more you focus on smoothness, the more you would get off it. The more you focus on successes, if you measure that, I'm successful when I get stuck less. So when you would be speaking, your brain would be looking out for, I hope I don't get stuck because I want to be successful. And I would be successful when I don't get stuck, right? So measure it in terms of smoothness, look at your successes in terms of smoothness, and that would always be pretty helpful.
Very important, which is why we've structured from the very beginning a book a long time ago called Don't Try to Stop Stuttering and Replace It. So you might see us using the word stuttering and stopping and things like that because that's what people are looking for. But the truth is really what we're focused on is smooth speech. How can you speak smoother? Regardless of whether or not you get stuck, you don't want to focus on that. Just like for this, you want to focus on how can I speak a little smoother? How can I be more clear? Remember the mental puzzle. Shift to something that's constructive and positive as opposed to measuring your success, just like for measuring it by, oh, I got that conversation. I didn't get stuck at all. Well, that's great. But guess what? You're going to have conversations where you do get stuck. It doesn't mean that you're not progressing and that you weren't successful, right? You can get stuck and still have an excellent, even an amazing speech or amazing interview, even though you got stuck. So were you successful or not? Well, of course you were successful. But if you gauged your success by how many times you got stuck, then you might say, I wasn't really successful then, which is just going to discourage you and cause you to focus on the negative, even though you were successful at it, right? Great point, Farouk. So a couple of things that we want to share with you now, and I think we've put some of those things in here, but I'm going to pop another link in here. Give me just a second. And if you are watching this and you are not a member of our Virtual Speech Masters Club, which is only $120 per 6 months, you get the full course, you get a bundle of courses and other resources, and you get to attend as many sessions as you want within the 6-month period, unlimited, and you get our supportive WhatsApp group, stuff going on in there almost every day, and we're going to be doing some more things. It's $120 per 6 months. I think it's like $204, $206 for a year, and that's a great place for you to start. You can get one free ticket to come join us so you can see for yourself. If you don't believe what we're saying, you can come see it for yourself, experience it for yourself. Some of you out there have been following us for months and for years, and you've got some things that are coming up, like you've got interviews that are coming up or important presentations that can impact your career. Don't wait to the last minute because your brain takes time to change. So the fastest way for you to make progress is when you work with us one-on-one and then combine that with Virtual Speech Masters. So if you engage us in coaching, Speech Masters is included. It's not separate. And you get the course and you get the benefit of our knowledge and our wisdom and years of experience. This will accelerate because we focus on the 80-20 rule. So we all have blind spots. When you work with us, we can see your blind spots, things that you didn't even know were there. And we can say, focus on this and focus on this. And then once we've done that, then we can say, now focus on this. Sometimes you think you're doing something that you're not. Sometimes you think you're doing enough of something and you're not. That's what we're there for. Rather than you're trying to figure out stuff on your own, we can save you months and years. So if you've got interviews coming up, you don't want to be working on this stuff for months and months and months or years. You need to take care of this now. So go check out that page. And on that page, I've clearly outlined, and these are from actual examples, I clearly outlined why coaching is a no-brainer, right? The cost of the coaching, you want to see it as an investment. I'm having open enrollment until sometime in April. I've only got a certain number of seats because I'm finite, right? So I can only have a certain number of coaching clients at a time. Same thing with Farouk. So I'm having open enrollment. You'll see the prices there. Divide that out by 12. You're getting 12 sessions plus the virtual speech masters. So if you've got stuff going on that you want to improve, if you're looking at getting a different job or something like that, this is the time where you want to enroll and work with me so that we can accelerate your progress. And or you might choose to work with Farouk, and so we'll make sure that you get a link to work with him. Does anyone have any questions? So I've already put a link in there to our website where you'll see the coaching. You can also get in touch with Farouk directly from that website. Farouk, would you repaste the link for the Virtual Speech Masters Club, just so that people can go there? Any questions, now is the time to ask them. You can ask them of Farouk, Jade, myself, or you might even have a comment. Any questions at all about anything that we've said or any challenges that you're having, challenge that you've been trying, you've been working on this, doesn't seem like it's working, or maybe you've been doing something that has been working and you want to share that with us. Go ahead and ask. Bob, all right, go ahead, brother.
Hey everyone, it's super nice to see all of you. First off, I actually want to say that Jade is speaking extremely well, and I'm super, super happy to see that. Would love to just kind of get your views on what the balance should be between practicing in low versus higher levels of pressure, and kind of how you approach that, because if you're at a stage where you're still struggling in higher pressure, then should you kind of shift much more of your efforts towards excelling at low pressure, or is it always best to do both?
I'm going to let Farouk and Jade chime in on that. What do you guys think?
Sure. So I think you asked this in the WhatsApp as well, and it's actually a question which is really, really good about how you can manage those situations, those practice situations. In short, I would say it's important to do both, because if you don't engage yourself in low and medium pressure, it might be hard to use it in high pressure. So if you just try to use it in high pressure, which you have to, of course, it might be a bit hard. So also try to do it in low and medium pressure. And like I said in the WhatsApp group, if you feel like if you don't have a lot of opportunities, low to medium pressure, which we all do, like speaking with our friends, with our family, and stuff like that. Even if not, you can help yourself create them by more phone calls, by going out there, like Jade said, speaking to people in the supermarkets, because the more you do that, the easier will it be to use it in high pressure. So I would say do both of them simultaneously, because the confidence that you would get from using it when you're more in control in low and medium pressure would be easier to transition into the high pressure. So in short, doing both simultaneously so that your confidence keeps increasing on an incremental level. Also, just try to use your new speaking style, like Michael says, every time you open your mouth to speak. Every time. Sometimes you just won't, and that is where you need to catch yourself, bring your focus back to it. The more you keep doing it, the more you keep using it in every single speaking situation, the more proactive you are, the more situations you create for yourself, low, medium, high pressure, all. The more you do that, the easier will it be for you moving forward. So I hope that makes sense.
Exactly. Haley's next, but I just wanted to add something really quick. I remember reading this in the Little Book of Talent many, many years ago. This lady was training musicians. I think they were playing the piano. And so of course, you've got to learn the basics kind of by yourself where there's no pressure. Just learn it. But then what she would do is she would bring them into a room and have all kinds of noise and distractions happening and have them play certain things under pressure, right? So yes, certain things you have to learn the basics of, but then pretty quickly put yourself under pressure. And if you already have those higher pressure speaking situations, which eventually won't be that high, right? They might be high pressure now, but later they probably won't be. Put yourself in there so you can desensitize yourself and just continue to focus on, for example, with you, Bob, we've been talking about maintaining airflow, kind of free flow speaking. Just focus on that. Keep at it. You will see improvements. Only time you won't see improvements is if you don't look for them, or you don't notice them, or think that they're not there, or if you think you're doing something that you're not doing, right? Well, I think I'm slowing down, but then you look at your video, no, I didn't really slow down. I didn't do what I thought. That's okay. You can do it the next time. So like Farouk said, do it in low to medium. So yeah, I'm doing it. This feels different. This looks different. Sounds different. Then do it in high. It might be challenging initially, but you'll find where there's times in that higher pressure speaking situation where you did it. Great. Okay, I'm just going to keep expanding that. Okay, that's the key. Haley, go ahead.
Hello. Thank you for allowing me this opportunity to speak, and I'd like to echo what Bav said about Jamal. You sound great. I just wanted to say that I've had 2 meetings yesterday and today. Both meetings, I was far less smooth than I would like to have been. Especially in today's meeting, I'm really finding it hard to find any positives at all, other than at least I spoke in the meeting. So what I'm struggling with is my brain just wants perfection all the time. And I'd just like to know how I can shift my brain to focus on the more positives, even when I'm struggling to find a positive.
Yeah, that's a great question. And there are lots of people who either are perfectionists, and of course, if someone's operating on me or they're a doctor, I want them to be as perfect as they can. So that can work for you, but when it comes to personal development, it can work against you in some cases. In many cases, there's something called the law of mind, and it essentially says that in all mental workings, effort defeats itself. So the more we try to make something, try to focus on, okay, I don't want to get stuck up, don't want this to happen or this happened, the more of that you're going to get. So it's a mindset shift. How do you shift your mindset? Your self-talk, kind of what you're saying to yourself. If you're saying, this isn't working, this is bad, then you're going to be pretty negative. When you ruminate or you go back and you review things that didn't go well, you may be looking at that through a negative filter. This was bad, this didn't go well. Maybe it didn't go well. So we're not saying lie about it. We're just saying, okay, it's a part of the process. It's a part of the journey. It's another bump in the road. And there may be some reasons why that happened. I don't know what they could be, but there might be some reasons why that happened. Sometimes it's, I didn't get enough rest. I'm tired. Something's bothering me. Or I allowed myself to think about the judgment, right? Or I focused on not getting stuck. So, I mean, it could be lots of different reasons why someone's focus shifted to and was fixated on something negative, which is going to definitely affect your current and future performance. So sometimes you can identify those reasons. Oh, here's what I was thinking. Here's what I wasn't thinking. And this is why this happened. Sometimes you can't put your finger on it, and you just have to focus on your goal and really not pay attention to that experience that you had. I know that sounds funny, but go back to Jade's Baby. Jade's Baby, that sounds like a book or something. Go back to Jade's Baby and any other baby. Imagine if that baby just said, I just fell 35 times yesterday. And, I'm not going to do, this is not working. This walking thing is not working. Now that baby will fall 100 times or 1,000 times, but eventually it clicks, right? Especially if the baby is trying to do what it can, but it just keeps trying. Eventually it's going to walk. The same thing with speaking, same thing with learning a new language. So you've been attending, Haley, our Virtual Speech Masters Club. You just actually spoke here. Those are all successes. Yeah, maybe you didn't do as well as you would like in those meetings. Ask yourself, in fact, see if you can ever record any of them. I don't know if you can, but if you can, then go back and watch yourself and say, was I actually doing everything that I've been training to do? And if I wasn't, do I have any ideas why? And if you say, oh yeah, it's because I was thinking this or I was doing that, then that's where you speak with your coach, Farouk, and or you do what you're doing now, and we kind of give you our different insights and perspectives. Sometimes it just takes one new idea to change the whole direction of your life. So you might hear one thing here that you do that can shift that. Now, Jade and Farouk, do you have anything to kind of add to, or even something different in terms of what she's saying, which is very, very common?
So I can actually add a little bit to this. Hey, Haley, first of all, excellent question. I think one of the things you mentioned that you were struggling to find things you did well. And I can almost assure you that this is an illusion, meaning you were more than likely doing multiple things well, you just are not focused on them. So a few that kind of come to my mind is one, you showed up to the meeting. You showed up to the meeting, and then two, you actually shared your thoughts, right? So you showed up and you contributed. So those two things alone are massive successes. And then in terms of what other things you can look at, were you talking at a healthy pace? How was your breathing? Were any of the techniques, were any of the Pro90D tools in your mind's eye at all? If you can just find a couple more of those things, I can assure you, you did way better than you think you did. It's often how our own minds have a tendency and a habit, again, to reinforce these illusory beliefs, right? So you saying that I don't think I did anything well is, I'm almost certain it is an illusion, and you probably did much better than you think you did.
Thank you, Jade. I just want to apologise to you as well. I called you the wrong name earlier. I'm sorry. I meant Jade.
Right.
Your speech sounds great. I'm really sorry.
That's okay. Thank you.
So just one more thing that I would add right here is that when we try to be 100%, like you mentioned about being a perfectionist, so sometimes when we try to be 100%, we are not. But when we are okay with not being 100%, we often end up being 100%. We often end up doing really, really well. Because the problem is that if you try to be 100%, then you would start to measure it in terms of, I don't want to even get stuck once because I want to be 100%. And the moment your focus shifts to that, that in itself might make you get stuck more. I hope you guys are able to hear me. Jade looks stuck, but oh, all right. So that is what happens. So it's really incredibly important to just look out there in the world, look at the people, see how people actually do sometimes speak fast, they do sometimes get stuck. So be okay with not being 100%, right? And try to be as smooth as you can, as smooth as you can. And there are often times when she would send me some of her meetings and recordings and stuff, and I could really see the successes on the point. But she sometimes, and it used to happen with me as well, that focusing on the successes is also a skill. Like it's a skill, it's a habit that you can develop with time. The more you start to focus on successes over and over again, the moment your mind shifts towards the failures, you say that, all right, those were the failures. Let me also try to find the successes. You'll more than often find them. And the more you keep doing that, focusing on the successes would keep becoming easier. And the easier it becomes, the more of that you would experience because the more you would be focusing on that. There would be times where you would get stuck, like Michael said, like Jade said, learn from it. All right, this happened because probably I wasn't airflow linking what we have been working with, or I spoke fast. There's all right, I'll make sure that I do these things the next time. So just a bump in the road, remember.
Thank you.
The your mindset is key here. For some people, well, I'd say for everyone, mindset is important. But for some people, the biggest hurdle is their own mindset. Like what you think, how you interpret your successes and failures, your bumps. That's the hurdle, not even their speech. Yes, of course, you need to improve the smoothness, but sometimes it's just how you are interpreting. So if you look at the times where you didn't feel like you spoke as well, more than likely you spoke better. There were some successes there. There were some, right? If the only way there isn't or weren't is if you didn't speak at all, or if you couldn't speak, like you couldn't say anything. You just like, just nothing. Okay. All right. There we go. So we can say, all right, in that case, and that has happened to me. But if you were able to say something, even if you struggled and it was hard, you were able to say something. Well, guess what? Believe it or not, these are not mind tricks. I mean, that's a success, like Jade said. So you got to focus on that and just remember the child. It doesn't have to be a bit. Just remember the child, the baby that's learning to do something. You look, wow, okay, I spoke a little smoother this time. You just keep at it, keep at it. Sometimes because of that law of accumulation, it just might click and you don't know when it's going to click, right? Sometimes the first 80% of your journey, you only see 20% of your improvement. So you're out there and you're working hard, but you're building the foundation, right? You're wiring in the new habits and you're working, 80% of distance there, you're only seeing a little bit. And then all of a sudden you cross this threshold and bam, everything accelerates, things really start to click. I've seen it happen so many times. You just got to hang in there, keep doing it, focus on your successes, keep tweaking, and it'll start to accumulate. Okay.
Thank
Any
you.
other questions? You're welcome. You're welcome. Any other questions before we wrap up? Yes, Bob, you did. You spoke very well in your question. And Haley, you spoke very well, right? So there you go. And these are all practices. And for some people, even though you didn't show your face, it's higher pressure. This is live. People can hear you. People, maybe they can't see you, but they can hear you. And you both did very, very well. Okay, if there's nothing else, we're going to get you an email, but you can watch the replay on YouTube, but we'll get you an email that'll have the replay, kind of a recap as well, and they'll have some links in there. So remember, If you've got stuff coming up, interviews, important presentations, don't wait. You want to work with us because it's an investment. If you see it as a cost, don't do it. This is an investment. You want to get a return on this. And we're going to work with you until you do get successes. Plus, you have a whole community behind you. So thank you so much for joining us. Jade, Farouk, anything that you guys want to add before we wrap up?
Just one last thing, that don't feel like we've been talking about anticipation. Don't feel like anticipation means that you would get stuck. Even if your heart is racing very fast, even if you feel like you would get stuck, feeling like you would get stuck does not mean that you would get stuck. So still get into the situation, still use your new speaking style, and you'll often find that that anticipation does not matter. Now you have the system, now you have the tools, so you don't need to really worry about anticipation. And try to reframe that anxiousness before presentations, interviews, and stuff to excitement. And that anxiousness or excitement, if you can reframe it into, it's actually there to help you out. So if there was no excitement at all, people would be sitting, speaking like this in an interview, in a presentation. So that feeling that you have inside of you, it's really, really helpful. It's just how you use it. So try to reframe it into excitement and use it to have more inflections, to slow down your speech, use your modeling style, use your new speaking style, use your hands. In short, anticipation does not mean that you would get stuck, and that feeling, that anxious, or rather we would call it that excitement feeling, it's there to help you out. So don't try to run away from it, that it should not happen. My heart should not race fast once I get into a speaking situation. It will race fast, and it's there to help you out. So you don't need to worry about that. Just wanted to add that. Yeah.
Very good. Thank you, Farouk. Thank you, Jade, for taking out the time to be here, man. Thank you, Farouk. And thank all of you that hung in there this whole time. Thank you for your excellent questions. We hope to see all of you on Saturday. I know some of you won't be there because you have other engagements, but once again, thank you so much. We will see you soon. Avail yourself of the links and we'll get some emails out for you too. Okay. Have a good rest of your day.